Hi everyone! Welcome to the Dying Will Chronicles. This is part 1 of a 2-part series talking about the first season of Katekyo Hitman Reborn. The first part of the outline is us introducing yourself. So let's start with our special guest Rick. Could you please tell us about yourself?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. I am Retro Rick, host of the podcast Superfancom. You can find us basically anywhere from YouTube to Google Play to Spotify. Superfancom is basically, if you enjoy like nostalgia shit, we've also done episodes on JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. We talk video games. We just basically entertain you and try to entertain ourselves as we go.
Oh wow, that's an excellent way of putting it. Thank you, Rick. Sounds like an awesome podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Richie, could you tell everyone a little about yourself?
My name's Richie.
Hi, Richie.
Hi.
Hi. I am part of the podcast that this is on the channel of. And I was asked to watch Reborn with Sin. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Richie. And my name is Sin. I co-host a podcast called The Snack Covenant with Richie. This Richie specifically.
Hi.
And together we're doing an episode-by-episode analysis of Reborn in our new podcast called The Policy. And so Rick actually contacted us to see if we wanted to do like a Season 1 wrap-up type deal since we finished Season 1, and I thought that was such an awesome idea. In part 1 of the Dying Will Chronicles, we focus on the characters, and this is part 1. And in part 2, we focus on the episodes. And so part 1 can be found on here, youtube.com/SinclairLore, and part 2 can be found on
Google Play, YouTube, Stitcher, Spotify. You can find everything in the description box below.
Awesome. Thank you. So, to start, Richie, you actually watched every episode of Reborn in Season 1.
Yeah.
Before we start, I would just like you to give us a quick summary of Season 1 of Reborn, in case people haven't seen it in a while.
So Reborn is a shonen anime based on a manga about a teenage boy called Suna who is kind of lazy and underperforming, and one day he finds out that he is the heir to a mafia family, and he is informed of this by a horrifying baby that shows up at his house that can talk. And the baby is a hitman, and he wears a small suit and a fedora. And his name is Reborn. And Reborn is going to tutor him in how to be a great mafia boss. And examples of things you need to know to be a great mafia boss are that stealing is wrong. If you witness a crime, you should tell the police. And most importantly, you should always believe in yourself.
Aww.
And along the way, he assembles a crew of friends from his high school. And they have a series of wacky adventures that escalate weirdly until they're quite dark and disturbing, and then it just snaps back and becomes wacky again, and then it ends. And I'm not allowed to watch Season 2 yet.
No, we'll watch it together. Thank you, Richie. So now, let's talk about some of the characters we meet in Season 1. So obviously the first character we're going to talk about is Suna! Yay!
Yay.
So Rick, do you want to tell us a little about Suna?
Suna is basically your typical middle school kid. He's a screw-up. He doesn't get good grades. He's lazy. He's like me. He sees the best in everyone, or tries to. His nickname is No Good Suna because he's a slacker.
Yeah. And it's interesting because he starts out as no good Suna, right? And then Reborn has to train him in becoming a better version of himself. And he's much more heroic and much more confident by the end of the series. So I feel like there's a real character development with him throughout season 1.
Oh, definitely.
What do you think, Richie?
Well, this happened when we were watching it, because we started off watching it, it was just uploaded to a random Vimeo account. But that only had 9 episodes. So one of the things about Reborn is that the gimmick, at least in this season, I understand they change it later on, is that when Suna feels like he can't do something, Reborn, the baby, shoots him in the head with his gun. He shoots him with a thing called a dying will bullet that makes Suna, like, hyped up and ready to go. And what happened in the 9 episodes that we watched before we switched to watching it on Crunchyroll is that toward the end of that night, I think it was like episode 7 or 8, Suna started being able to do things without being shot with the dying will bullet. And I felt like, yeah, okay, yeah, he has actually developed, and the show, it kind of could end here if you wanted to, because he's sort of... and then I looked at it, and there were 190 episodes to go.
Plus an OVA.
Yeah. Part of the understanding between Sin and I is that I have to watch it with her. I have to watch it blind. So I don't know anything that happens after season 1. I saw the intro to, like, season 3 or 4, and it looked like Bleach. So I don't really know.
You shut your mouth, sir.
Something happens.
Well, something does happen.
But we're not allowed to talk about it because there are no spoilers for Richie.
Yeah.
Well, no, but can we talk about how, like, part of our weird relationship with Reborn is that you hadn't really watched any shonen before you watched Reborn.
I watched Sailor Moon.
That's not shonen, though.
I watched Utena.
It's very not shonen.
I watched movies of Takashi Miike.
Yeah, that's also not shonen. But what happened was, like, when we started watching it, you were saying, oh, it's really unpredictable, it goes to all these places you wouldn't think. But then I was sort of picking the, like, really obvious shonen tropes in it. And you were starting to wonder if I had actually watched this before you. So we had this weird relationship where you were like, I didn't see the tournament arc coming. And I didn't see that, like, Suna was going to assemble a group of his friends and they all have, like, a slightly different weapon. And then they have to fight their kind of evil opposites on the other side and stuff like that.
That's one thing I love about Reborn and hate at the same time is the openings, because they spoil you.
Yeah, that's true. I think in season 1 there's a couple of different openings.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But one of them shows you characters from, like, the next season, and you're like, why?
Yeah, and it's like, don't do that to me.
Yeah.
But the theme songs in Reborn are fantastic. I could listen to them all day.
Oh my god, the tracks are so good. They're like Bloodborne good.
Sure, let's go with Bloodborne.
So before we move on to the next character, when we were watching Reborn with Richie, he described Suna in a very interesting way, and I wrote down the quote here. Richie, do you mind reading your own quote from when you watched Reborn with me?
Certainly, I'll just get it. This sounds mean. Okay. Every shonen protagonist ever. He's bad at school, lives with his mother, his room is messy, he sleeps too long, he has to impress a girl, but she's not impressed by him, and then she is. He seems like a loser, but then if you push him too far, he reveals his true power, and he's the heir to some kind of mystic power that he rejects because he's lazy. That's 98% of shonen anime, but there's the novel introduction of a grotesque baby who looks like a living Funko Pop. This strange homunculus who is a hitman and also a member of the mafia.
Thank you.
Another thing that's come up as a result of doing this is I went back and listened to them, and I have very little memory of anything we talked about in that. I'd also forgotten, like, entire story arcs that went for multiple episodes.
For anyone who's never seen this show, I always stress it like the first 16 episodes are nothing but character development. If you can get past that, then the show actually picks up.
Well, what I tell people is that the first 16 episodes are character development, and you should be honored to watch the first 16 episodes of Reborn.
Fair.
That's true. That is what she made me do.
Okay, so now we can move on to another character, Nana Saboda. Rick, do you want to do the honors of telling us who she is?
Yeah, Nana Sawada is basically Suna's mom. She's really nice. During the course of the series, basically, everyone who comes into contact with Suna ends up living in their house.
Yeah.
She makes really good food. She seems to be aware of the whole mafia thing because we'll get to it in part 2. But at the end of the first episode, she says, "Take care of my son," and that kind of lets you know that she knows, and she's not one of the many parents who are like oblivious to the whole like surrounding of the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there are moments where you think she doesn't know anything about the mafia, but little moments like you mentioned where it's like, oh, she's aware of what's happening. She's just really chill, I guess?
Yeah.
Yeah, she takes it in her stride that there's mafia assassins hanging around her kitchen.
Uh-oh, there's a giant turtle in the house. Oh
no! Oh no, Lambo brought grenades for dinner. Silly Lambo.
I hear explosions. There must be a sale.
Yeah, that was so funny. I don't know if you remember, Richie, in an episode. I don't know what they were doing. There were explosions outside her house as usual, and she's like, explosion?
Yeah.
There must be a sale in town, so she goes shopping, looking for the sales.
I do remember one of the things I said while you were watching it is I sort of want there to be an episode that's just their house when Suna's not there. It's just these like series of babies with rifles and hitmen that just hang around this house and she's having to cook for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also about her voice actress anyway is Holly Kujo from the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure audio CDs.
Oh wow.
Oh.
She's the dub for Monica on Friends in the Japanese version of Friends.
Oh.
She's actually the one that performs the theme song for Sailor Moon S and the Sailor Moon R movie, and is the voice of Sailor Venus.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Wow.
That's so cool.
And is the voice of Enya the Hag in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stardust Crusaders.
Oh, cool.
Oh, excellent. Thanks, I didn't know that. So now, let's move on to the Trickster. Ibon! Rick, could you do the honors?
Oh yes. Reborn, who's the series named after, is a baby and a top-level hitman in Italy who's charged with bringing up Suna to become the 10th heir to the mafia family.
Mm-hmm. The Vongola family, yeah.
Yeah, the Vongola family. He wears a suit, and he has not a gecko. What's
a shape-shifting chameleon?
Yeah, chameleon on his hat that changes shape and mainly turns into the gun that he uses to shoot Suna.
I don't understand how, after hearing your description of Reborn, anyone can not want to watch the show. It's so good and funny. There's a baby hitman.
He looks like a Funko Pop.
Your face looks like a Funko Pop.
And Reborn's voice actress, Neko, that's actually her real voice. There is no, changing of the voice.
What?
Oh, wow.
That is her real voice.
No way, really?
Yes, I've seen her in interviews where she's doing, advertisements for her music, and that's her legit voice.
Oh my god, that is the cutest voice I've heard in my life.
That's really interesting because, like, a couple of days ago, Sin was saying to me, like, how does she do that voice? Because Sin was like, I can't do it.
That's legit her voice.
Wow. You know who else has a really interesting voice? A little slug who cannot lie. Can a little slug come here and just show us what they sound like?
Hello, Rick! Yeah, that's going to be somewhat confusing for Rick, I think. Who's not familiar with the array of characters that have one line that you take endless delight in me repeating.
That's very deep lore. Deep lore that I don't understand yet.
Excellent. So one thing that Richie really likes about Reborn is that Reborn wears different costumes.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you tell us some of the costumes and characters that Reborn has, Richie?
Reborn, as a hitman, has a number of wacky identities that he adopts throughout the series. These include a sea urchin, a Russian dancer called Vangoloski. Sometimes he puts an elephant-shaped hat on and says his name is Master Pow Pow. But the best identity he adopts is the famous mathematics lecturer,
Yes!
Professor Boreen.
And everyone but Suna buys it.
Yeah.
Oh, interestingly enough, Richie, you don't know this, but Master Pow Pow is actually a bit of a foreshadowing into future episodes. And we'll get to it a bit later when we talk about another character. So Reborn is actually very deep, and it, plans ahead. Richie also compared Reborn to a trickster archetype. Could you elaborate on that, Richie?
That's just how I described him. He's a sort of trickster mentor figure to Suna. A lot of what he does is, like we mentioned with the costumes and stuff, he just kind of confuses people, and he does things that seem initially random but end up kind of paying off in the end.
Yeah. Plus he has hideouts all over town, apparently.
Yeah.
He's also very proficient in various mafia techniques.
Yeah, the hidden mafia techniques.
He also sleeps with his eyes open.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So, Rick, could you talk about the next character?
Yes, our next character is Hayato Gokudera. We were first introduced to him, he wants to, kill Suna. So basically, if you're a fan of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Golden Wind, it's basically Giorno and Bucciolati.
Mm-hmm.
Where they start off as, kind of enemies, but then they're the bestest of friends. But Gokudera basically is also the nickname the Human Bomb, which basically means he always has sticks of dynamite on his person, and he can detonate them at any time he wants.
Mm-hmm.
He's very quick to anger.
Yeah.
He has a sister that he gets sick around, because we'll get into her as to why he gets sick.
Mm-hmm.
He gets very jealous when someone talks to Suna.
Yeah, and in some episodes when Yamamoto's talking to Tsuna, you can see Gokudera does not appreciate that.
He calls my favorite character a stupid cow.
Yeah.
In return, Lambo calls Gokudera Stupidera.
Yeah.
And by the boxing guy, he calls him Octopus Head.
Yeah. I find Gokudera a really interesting character because when we first meet him, we get the impression that he wants to be the next mafia boss or whatever. But as the episode goes on, it becomes clear that he really doesn't. And when he gets to know Tsuna more, he realizes that he really likes Tsuna and he wants to be his friend. I think it's really cute. It's really, really cute. Or when Tsuna's in the hospital,
yes.
He shows up with flowers and he's like, I'm sorry I couldn't protect you, Tsuna. It's so heartwarming. Richie, do you have anything to add on Gokudera?
No, I think you pretty much covered it. I mean, he has other stuff, but it connects to the next character.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and who's our next character?
It's Bianchi.
Poison cooking.
Poison cooking.
So, Rick, could you tell us about her?
Yes, Bianchi is Gokudera's sister, also known as the Poison Scorpion, because basically whatever she cooks turns to poison, which is a backstory for Gokudera being sick, because when he was younger, Gokudera plays the piano, and Bianchi basically makes him food, makes him sick, and apparently gave a great performance. And then his parents wanted Bianchi to cook every time he had a recital. And then basically Gokudera just became sicker and sicker, and now he can't be around his sister without keeling over.
Aww.
Is she in the manga?
Yeah, every character is in the manga.
Everyone's in the manga, Richie.
Because I was looking this up because we mentioned JoJo Golden Wind, which is an arc that is about the mafia, and there was this thing that came up where it's like, why did these two things about the mafia kind of came out around the same time? Which came first? And it turns out Reborn actually predates Golden Wind by like a year. Yeah.
Thank you, Richie. So let's move on to the next character, Takeshi Yamamoto. So do you want to tell us a bit about him, Rick?
This is on the tier of my I kind of like him, I kind of don't like him, but Takeshi Yamamoto is always a positive dude. He's like a sports star in school. He plays baseball. His father owns a sushi restaurant.
And what's really kind of cute about him is that he's kind of like Suna's mom and Kyoko, where you don't know if he understands what's going on, because whenever something weird happens or dangerous happens, he's like, oh, we're playing the mafia game. Can I play too?
Really never got a hold of his character until later in the series.
Yeah, Richie, what do you think of Yamamoto?
He is hot-headed and well-intentioned.
No, he's not hot-headed. He has his moments, like this one time he almost killed Lambo with a baseball when he was trying to play catch with him.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say he's hot-headed. I'd say he's passionate about baseball specifically. But the rest of the time, he's really nice and really sweet and really chill.
The problem is that in my head, I confused him with the next character in the list. And I didn't realize they were two different characters until I rewatched us talking about it in preparation for this.
How can you... Richie! Oh my god, Richie does that. He's like, all these characters are the same. We just need one hot-headed character who's really passionate about sports.
I feel like you would agree that there are slightly too many characters in Reborn.
No, slightly too many. You know what? Let me show you a screenshot. Let me find it. I saw this and I'm like, oh, I better not show it to Richie. He might be like, oh, what? But you know what, Richie? Now that you're being like that, now that you're talking crap, I'm going to show you a screenshot.
I specifically remember when we were watching the first 9 episodes, there was a scene in, I think it's in the school infirmary, where it just, it's like there are too many characters to physically fit in the frame.
Yes.
And we're about 6 episodes in.
I'd like you to read what it says on the screenshot I just sent you.
Katekyo Hitman Reborn top 60 strongest characters.
Thank you, Richie. Okay. So now, let's move on to Ryohei Sasagawa.
Ryohei Sasagawa basically is extreme!
This is the hot-headed guy.
He also plays video games, by the way. We know this because in the zoo episode, when Lambo blew up the walls and all the animals ran away from the zoo, they show Ryohei playing a fighting game in the arcade with a bear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bear is standing on its hind legs by the arcade machine and they're fighting against each other. But then, confusingly, in about 10 episodes' time, animals are just animals.
Yes.
And it's meant to be scary that you're trapped with a predatory animal. So, yeah.
Mhm. Well, it's not even in like 10 episodes' time. About 7 minutes ago, lions could harm humans.
Yeah, and also pandas meditate on.
Roller coasters.
This is the episode I have the most vivid memories of.
Yeah, he's really extreme. He's really passionate about boxing. He's really passionate about sports, but he's also actually really positive. So he's like, if Gokudera and Yamamoto were one person, I think there'd be like Ryohei, you know? But what's really interesting is that in the episode where Ryohei trains Tsuna in boxing, so Tsuna can like be more brave and like defend himself, Ryohei gets shot by the desperation bullet, but he remains the same because he lives life to the limit all the time anyway. And Reborn remarks that Ryohei is an oppressive fellow. And in that episode, Reborn was also dressed as Master Pow Pow. And Richie, this is what I mean by foreshadowing. Reborn being impressed with Ryohei and Ryohei admiring like Master Pow Pow is something that will sort of resonate later. Like Rick knows what I'm talking about, but we're not there yet. It's in about 2 seasons, I think.
So in like 2023, this will make sense. 'Cause we seem to be doing one season a year. Yeah.
Oh, and Rick, do you want to tell us about his voice actor?
Yes, his voice actor is also he worked as staff as part of the Egypt arc in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and also did the voice of Hall Horse.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Now, let's move on to Leon.
Yes, Leon is Reborn's shape-shifting chameleon that sits atop his head.
Mm-hmm.
He can transform into the gun that lets Reborn shoot stuff at Tsuna.
Mm-hmm.
He also can transform to many other things.
Like a rice cooker! He's so perfect!
Yeah, it's like a rice cooker.
Yeah.
And also when he loses his tail, he can grow it right back. And in a couple episodes, we meet Dino, which Leon gave him a bullwhip.
Mm-hmm.
And then he creates Tsuna's famous X gloves, which gives him a power boost.
Exegutovo! Yes! X gloves are so cool. They're like the coolest thing ever.
Are they the thing he's wearing in the thumbnail of the top 60 strongest characters?
You saw the X gloves, Richie, remember?
No, I don't.
Oh my god, so Richie, in that episode where you're like, oh my god, what is she to do? And Hibari gets beat up in a warehouse, Bianchi gets stabbed. Yeah, and at some point, remember Leon is like floating and there's light and like he sort of creates
that's like his Suna's
to
special
the
weapon.
special thing. Yeah, and it's like wool gloves that turn into these awesome gloves.
Yeah, I'll level with you. I skipped rewatching that part because it was too depressing.
Oh my god.
It's too violent.
No, but that's the thing. Reborn is like so intense. You like go through the depressing part because in the end, it's like, no, it's victory. Like they survive the bad stuff and they come out stronger, you know? It's inspirational.
It's more like they survived being in another show for 6 episodes and then it's just back to how it was.
Yes. That is the daily life arc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the X gloves will come into play more in future episodes. Okay. Thank you. So now let's talk about the next character. And I think this is the character Richard likes the least. Kyoko Sasagawa.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah. So could you tell us a bit about her, Rick?
Yes, she's the school idol. Kinda only to Tsuna, really. Because no one else really cares about her.
Oh, shade! Shade!
She's Ryohei's sister. And Tsuna basically will do anything for her. He has a massive crush, but typical, she's totally oblivious to it.
But that kind of varies, because sometimes it seems like she likes him too, because she's like, oh, you want to go to the zoo together? You want to hang out together?
This was the genesis of my confusion regarding the character, which is like, it starts off with Suna being like, oh no, Kyoko, the class idol, I love her, but she doesn't, like, notice me. And then embarrassing weird stuff with Reborn would happen when she was watching and he'd be embarrassed. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's the relationship. But then after that, they're just friends. And there's a part where, like, within a few episodes of each other, there is a scene where Kyoko shows up at Suna's house and waits for him in his bedroom. And then they go out on a date. But like a couple of episodes later, he's acting like she doesn't notice him. And it's like the show couldn't decide if it was meant to be Kyoko is the class idol and she won't notice me, or Kyoko is my childhood friend who I have a crush on, but she doesn't notice me. She was kind of both randomly throughout it.
Well, you know, Reborn never ceases to surprise you. It goes beyond the typical expectations of characters and does stuff like that.
No, but I feel like it sort of is that, because the impression I got from the show that we watched is that, like, I assumed this might have... Was this, like, the first major thing that the writer had worked on?
Yeah.
Yeah. I got the impression that the writer had sort of identified, okay, these are the things that are in, like, shonen stories, these characters in these situations. And it's, she, isn't it? Put them all in the... Yeah. She put them all in the story. And then sort of figured out as she was writing it what she was going to do with them. So there's like bits in the first season that felt like it was something generic, and then she sort of settled on something more interesting for them later on. Yeah. So it was sort of like watching like a drafting process happening in front of you.
Thank you, Richie. Now, here are some things Richie said about Kyoko. She might be an automaton. She might shut down. She might shut down if left alone for too long.
Yeah, there were episodes where, like, I remember there's one where she's in Suna's room, and then something happens, and they just go and do that for the whole episode and come back, and she's still there, as if she just like turned off and then came back on again.
And the most insightful thing that Richie said, that I was like, oh my god, I think you're right, is that Kyoko looks like Tsuna's mom.
Like, exactly.
And I quote Richie here, which makes the whole thing Freudian as fuck.
That's pretty on point.
And also Richie compared it to Evangelion a lot.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh, and another thing that we should mention is that Kyoko is Ryohei's sister.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. So let's move on to Rich's favorite character, Haru Miura.
Is she my favorite?
Oh, she is your favorite.
But my favorite was Bianchi.
Both of them are your favorite.
All right, I won't argue.
Okay. Rick, could you tell us a bit about Haru?
Yeah, Haru is the most annoying character we meet. She likes children. She's always like upbeat and positive, except around Suna for a while, because she thinks Suna is a bad influence on Reborn.
Yeah.
She cosplays later in the series, later in a couple of episodes. She thinks Suna's always trying to get Reborn into trouble and thinks Suna's just a bad person all around. But fun fact, her name is the Japanese word for spring.
Aw. I don't know if you remember, Richie, but you loved it when she wore those costumes.
Yeah. We should clarify for people listening that when it's like Richie liked it when Haru wore costumes, they're not like fetish gear. She dresses as like a boat with a human head and like a bunch of weird animals and stuff. Yeah. She was sort of the opposite of Kyoko for me because one of the things we said is like, oh, Kyoko doesn't seem to have much of an existence outside of Suna. She just seems to shut down when he's not around. Whereas Haru would just like show up in the middle of her doing things and like do her own stuff in the story. Yeah, she seemed like she actually was like an active character who was doing her own thing.
And interestingly enough, she goes to the Midori Middle School, whereas the rest of them go to the... I forget. To the other school.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And now, we're moving on to the best character of the series in all of anime.
We have Lambo.
Yeah.
Lambo!
Adu Datsurai, Adu Lambo. Adu Datsurai, I hear Lambo.
He is so cute. Like, I can't how cute he is. He's so cute and adorable. He's so cute. He's such a cute baby.
One of the things that became apparent when we rewatched Reborn is that Sin did not really remember very much of the plot of Reborn, but she did remember Lambo. So there would be much like me, having watched it a year ago, she had forgotten whole story arcs, but was just like, Lambo! Aww.
He's so cute. It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah, and I love him so much that in the notes in the outline, I just put, he is so cute. And I see Rick actually filled out the rest of it. Like, there is some information on Lambo. And it's true, there's a lot of information on Lambo. He's from the Bovino family, right?
Yes, which is for cow.
Yeah. One interesting thing is that, unlike Reborn and the Arcabaleno, Lambo is an actual real baby.
This is something that was great when you revealed this to me. You were actually sort of like nervously coughing because Reborn is a baby who is a hitman, but he's like a magic baby.
Mm-hmm.
So you can kind of hand wave that they've allowed a baby to carry a gun around, and he can talk. And then when Lambo and the next character we're going to talk about showed up, and I just thought, okay, they must also be magic babies, so I'll just roll with this. But then later on, you revealed to me that they are in fact just regular babies who I guess can independently travel on their own, and throw explosives around, and are involved and then work for the mafia.
A signature thing about Lambo that's so cute is that he carries around a giant pink bazooka.
Yeah.
But the plot twist comes in because it's not a regular bazooka. It's a 10-year bazooka.
A time skip bazooka.
I have a lot of issues with this bazooka.
Yeah, and it's really amazing because, again, you don't expect something like that to just show up in an anime or something about the mafia. I don't know, something Richie would say. And the way this bazooka works is also really interesting, and we'll actually talk a bit more on that in the second part of this podcast. Lambo also loves candy, and he loves food generally. He really likes food, and I think I identify with him on that level.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's also known as the broccoli monster. And Rick, would you like to tell us something about the voice actor?
Yeah, there's two voice actors for Lambo. The 5-year-old one, which is Goemon from Digimon, Naruto, and Mokuba Kaiba from Yu-Gi-Oh!
Mm-hmm.
While 10-year-old Lambo is the voice actor for Seto Kaiba. So basically you have the two Kaiba brothers as one character.
Whoa! This is a very high production anime.
Yeah.
Amazing. Good job, Reborn. Okay, so now let's move on to a character that Richie calls a horrifying egg baby. And when Richie saw them in the intros, Richie was like, I hope I never get to meet them. Could you tell us about Ipin, Rick?
Yes, Ipin is a assassin from Hong Kong. Again, 5 years old, like Lambo.
Mm-hmm.
Becomes friends with Lambo later on. She uses what's known as the Goisa Tempo, a technique that sends a wave of garlic sent straight into the enemy's brain, which has her control the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
when she gets really nervous and shy, a countdown appears on her giant ass head called the Pinzu Timed Super Explosion. And you have about 5 seconds before the timer runs out before it blows up and creates a crater.
Yeah. Do you think this is what caused the explosion in Death Stranding?
Yes.
Thank you. And also in season 1, we noticed that Ipin has a mentor or something, but we don't really understand who it is, but we will learn more about him in future seasons. Richie doesn't seem very excited. What's up, Richie?
I'm just thinking about the possibility of watching more Ipin. If Ipin looks like the Bayolet Apostle from Berserk, she has a gigantic egg-shaped head with a tiny little face on it.
Thank you, Richie. And Rick, you have a note here about Ipin?
Yeah. Ipin's actress, who's actually Chinese, is also played Carly, the photojournalist in Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds.
Oh, cool. Reborn has all the best voice actors.
He does.
Yay! Thank you. So now let's move on to the next character, Dino.
Ah, yes, Dino, the bucking bronco. He is the new generations of the Cavaleon family. He's their new boss. After not wanting, he was also trained by Reborn.
Mm-hmm.
He has a turtle named Enzo, who gets giant when soaked in water.
Right.
So it's 1/3 of a Mogwai from Gremlins.
Yeah.
Dino must always be around his subordinates, otherwise he's a complete useless.
Yeah, he is very useless. When we were watching the episode where Reborn built a mountain to train Tsuna, it was Yamamoto, Gokudera, and Dino, I think, along with Tsuna, that were there. And they were going through all these shenanigans, and at some point, they're lost, and Dino's like, oh, it's okay, I have a cell phone, I can use it to call for help. But because Dino's subordinates weren't around, he wasn't even able to use the cell phone and accidentally broke it. And at that point, Richie said, and I quote, "Oh no, Dino, you're useless without your subordinates. Remember your one character trait."
Like how you're just bringing up things I said to make it seem like I'm horribly mean to this anime that you made me watch.
No, I think when Richie and I watched the anime, Richie went through a transformation because Rich, you started out not liking it very much, but by the end of it, you were like, oh, I get it.
I started off not understanding how they dragged this out for 200 episodes because what it was about and
I feel ya.
how the laws of physics function in this universe and what the tone of it was shifting wildly. And I was like, what is this? Like, an example is, like, we talked about, like, this episode here we're talking about now, where you just mentioned very casually when Reborn built a mountain. So the whole premise of that episode is that they're lost on a mountain, but it turns out that it wasn't a real mountain, and off camera at some point Reborn just made a mountain for them to get lost on, and then Suna saved the day by his hand got really huge and he punched the ground, which made water come out and caused a flood. And also during this, like, the cast were just showing up on this mountain with, I think there was no explanation. They would just go into a cave and, like, Haru is there. So it felt like this is just this bizarre, like, farce. It's like a Looney Tunes cartoon.
Yakety-schmackety-doo.
Yeah, but then within about, what, like, maybe less than 10 episodes, there are scenes of people just being, like, kicked in the stomach in a warehouse till blood's coming out of their mouth. And it's played like, oh my god, like, you could actually, someone could die in this. And, like, or, like, when we talked about the zoo, there's this episode where they go to the zoo and a bear escapes and plays an arcade game against Ryohei. So I'm just like, what? It's like It's like these feel like they're 5 seasons apart, but they're happening. So I was just incredibly confused for the season. I didn't know what it was. And then I figured out by the end of it, okay, I think, it's like I said, it was like watching the drafting process.
Mm-hmm.
And they sort of seem to have figured it out by the end. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Richie. So you've gone through your own growth as you're watching Reborn.
No, I feel like the show went through the growth.
Yeah, it kind of did. Yeah.
And you have a note here, Rick, about the voice actors?
Yeah, there's actually 2 voice actors for Dino. Apparently, like in a lot of shows, voice actors change hands. Like Mai from Yu-Gi-Oh! Changed voice actors. First voice actor, which was Kenta Kamashi, he started from episode 8, which was the first episode of Dino, and he stayed all the way until the end of the first season.
Mm-hmm.
He's Edshot from My Hero Academia.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second actor they got to replace him, his name is just Ken.
All right. So now, let's move on to the next character, Putta. I feel like Richie has a weird relationship with Futa because, I mean,
Well,
when Futa appeared, Richie was like, what is this? Every character has a gimmick. Oh, look at me, I'm Futa. I rank things. Oh no, it's raining. I'm going to sleep.
He does.
that's true, though! It is true every character has a weird gimmick. That's not me making... That's just an observation. So, Food as a kid, he ranks things every time something's like... He's like one of those channels that just does top 10 lists.
Yes.
And he puts everything in lists, and then when it rains, he falls asleep. But they play up that he's going to be a major character, and he's in like 4 episodes and then goes back to Italy. Is Fuda the one who first uttered the phrase 7 strongest mafia babies?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Oh my god, Richie! Richie's such a bully. When you say things in that tone, it sounds ridiculous, Richie.
Which led to the situation where I realized that not only were Ipin and Lambo normal babies, but there's 7 very powerful mafia babies, and then a potentially infinite number of other just regular babies that work for the mafia. Which outside of this is depicted as just like guys in suits hanging around Sicily in bars. Like it's just this particular branch of the mafia that's like a weird fever dream. The rest of the mafia is normal.
Thank you, Richie. So let's move on to the next character. And this character is actually, I am doing like air quotes, a bad guy. And their name is Mukuro Rokudo. So tell us about him, Rick.
Yes. Oh my god. He's like one of my favorite characters in the entire series.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He was in the mafia testing facility as a child. They tested him for like the bullets, and like they kept shooting like bullets at him to figure out how they work. He was basically like a guinea pig. One day he just snapped, went on a killing spree. He assembled a group of guys that follow him, but also Mukuro can create illusions because in his eyes, because he has 2 different colors eyes, which he calls past life experiences from 6 realms. And Tsuno can basically feel him by the end of the show, so he knows when he's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think Mukuro is a really cool, like, our first like evil guy off the bat. It's a good way to like, okay, something's interesting happening finally, and it's got a cool gimmick.
Mm-hmm. And when Mukuro is introduced, this is when things get a little more dark and intense.
Yeah, because you, again, casually mentioned the phrase mafia testing facility. in which it turns out that the Mafia have a secret island where they're trying to create super soldiers. It's like something from Metal Gear Solid.
Yep.
Thank you, Richie. Now, the next character is... So this was a little bit of a revelation for Richie, I guess, and I was very excited that we'd got to this point because this character is another magical baby, one of the strongest babies ever, an Arcabaleno, and his name is Colinello. Tell us about him, Rick.
Okay, Colinello. He's basically the commando baby. And the translation I got all the time, he always ends his sentences in hey.
Mm-hmm.
We meet him in Mafia Land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Mafia amusement park.
Yeah.
And Colinello is like super hardcore. He's like, I guess he's like probably as strong as Reborn. And he has like a rifle and he has a bird that takes him places. I don't remember. What was he doing in Mafia Land? Does he just live there?
If I remember correctly, I just think like Reborn invited him, or he was just there to like test Suna or something.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And for those who are wondering, Mafia Land is like this island with attractions and stuff where Mafia can go ahead and relax without the prying eyes of others. Thank you, Richie. Thank you, Rick. So now, that's not all. At the end of the season, we meet another Mafia baby, and their name is Skull. Reborn keeps calling Skull Lecky and like bossing him around, and Skull doesn't retaliate. He's like,
Skull has an octopus that like gives orders to.
Mm-hmm.
It also wears a helmet, and other than Mukuro, it's my favorite color scheme because I love black and purple.
Yeah.
And Skull, I think, is also described as a stuntsman.
Yes.
But I don't think we saw him perform any stunts yet.
No.
Okay. And yeah, like we were saying, Skull is almost like afraid of Reborn, and Reborn bosses him around and calls him lackey. And Skull doesn't like it, but he doesn't deny it or contradict it. He's just like, okay. What do you think, Richie?
I don't think I saw enough of Skull to properly get a grip on the character. All I remember is there was another baby and they had an octopus, and they attacked the Mafia castle on Mafia Land.
And I remember when we were watching this, they were showing how like there is I forget the Mafia family, but the bad Mafia family.
The bad Mafia.
They're storming Mafia Land on giant like ships, and then you just stay quiet and then you just go, remember how the Mafia has a navy? Okay, thank you. And now the last character we're going to discuss today.
It's your favorite.
Do the theme, Richie.
Do 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 do.
Yeah, it's my favorite. It's Hibari-san. Woo!
Yes.
Yeah, and he's just so cool. He's the head of a disciplinary committee, and he's very calm and composed, and you don't mess with him. And he's so hardcore that Tsuna, the 10th generation mafia boss of one of the most powerful mafia families, is scared of him.
Well, not only that, but in the final episode of the season, the high school disciplinary committee successfully extort the mafia. Which sounds like a wacky farce, but that is actually just the plot.
Yep.
Yeah. And in one of the episodes where Reborn makes Tsuna think he killed someone, and they're like trying to figure out what to do with the body, Hibari jumps through a window and he's like, I can get rid of that body for you.
That was my favorite arc of Reborn, honestly. It was just like this idiot child trying to deal with a whole lot of assassins living in his mother's house. Yeah.
And Hibari also seems to like Reborn. Like, Hibari doesn't really show it, but you can kind of tell it because of the things he says. So I think Hibari and Reborn have this sort of respect for each other. And Hibari is really into being the head of the school disciplinary committee. In one of the episodes where he gets captured and locked up in the warehouse, he actually befriends the little bird that another bad guy used to have and teaches the bird the theme of the school. So it shows like a softer side of Hibari. You know, he loves animals.
Yeah.
While still wanting to fight Reborn.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Him and Reborn have a complicated relationship.
I want to fight that guy.
I want to fight that baby. The best part is Hibari's theme.
Yes, which I used to have as my ringtone for a while.
Oh my god, that's so cool. Whenever we see Hibari on screen, like doing his like face and pose and all that, the theme comes out and it's really funny because it's like every time. Richie calls it Hibari's hunting theme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just in this show about the mafia, the major source of threat is the head of a high school disciplinary committee.
Yes.
Yeah.
While looking for like any type of like fun facts to add in, I found out he's also the voice actor of Faust from the Guilty Gear series, and he's the Japanese voice actor for Terry Bogard in Smash.
Wow.
Oh wow. Kyan really likes Guilty Gear, so I'm gonna send Kyan a message as we speak.
Nice.
The voice actor of Faust from Guilty Gear is also the voice actor for Hibari in Reborn! Exclamation point. Let's see what Kyan says. Okay. Thank you, Richie. And now we're approaching the last part of the podcast. So let me ask both of you, who is your favorite character?
I think my favorite character is a tie between Hibari, Lambo, and Mukuro. Because Mukuro is actually like a very cool, like, stylized villain, and like something that like shakes up the show. If you're really bored, you get to him, you're like, okay, this is really awesome. Lambo is like, it introduces a 5-year, like the 10-year bazooka that like seems interesting, that can be used good if used right and if they remember to use it.
Mm-hmm.
And then Hibari is just basically, he's got that quiet cool. He's like that, like, not really a bad guy, not really a good guy character.
Yeah, he's like an anti-hero of sorts.
Yeah.
Okay. My favorite characters are, I think, Lambo and Hibari. Oh, Rich is laughing in the background. What's up, Richie? You being laugh bullying a lot today. What's up?
I know it's Lambo and Hibari because I mean, I mentioned this when we were recording it, but I feel like a lot of your experience with season 1 could have been replicated by just looking at a looping gif of Lambo for the same amount of time. Kind of like how you watched that 10-hour-long Detective Pikachu dancing thing. I feel like that's because you're obsessed with Reborn, and we were watching it and you couldn't remember a lot of things that were happening, but you were saying, "Oh, Lambo, look at him all."
Yeah, he's so cute. His design is so cool.
Yeah, it is a very good design.
And his episodes are so funny. It's just, it's really, really cute. My boyfriend recently informed me that when we watched the show together, I apparently did not like Hibari. I was like, he's so mean. He's not nice. Yeah, I guess I grew to like Hibari more as the series progressed. And Richie, tell us about your favorite characters.
I liked Bianchi a lot. Because I thought she was a good contrast to the other wacky assassins, because she just seemed to want to get on with things. So if you put her and, like, Lambo together, Lambo is just causing all of this chaos, and then Bianchi is also causing chaos, but in an attempt to just, like, resolve the situation. So I thought it was good the way they played off each other. And and I liked Haru because she was a weirdo, but it was weird in a way that a human being could be. So she also, like, sort of built on the chaos that was happening. She just showed up. She didn't need a gimmick. She could just be strange. And she actually could drive plots forward and stuff. Unlike Kyoko, who just sort of stood there.
Thank you, Richie. And now, let's talk about our least favorite character, or characters. What about you, Rick?
Least favorite characters, Haru and Ryohei. Hands down. I hate Ryohei so much.
Aww.
Even through the entire series, he never did anything for me. He's just that, way too, loud guy that wants to be, center, extreme! Do this, yeah!
Mm-hmm.
Take it down a notch, pal. And then you got Haru, who just, he's basically, what you think Grell is in, Black Butler, the annoying fangirl who just, wants to get with the main character.
Yeah.
What about Yurichi?
I think I might just go Ryohei by default, because I forgot he existed until we did the rewatch. Because I had remembered him and Yamamoto as the same character. Because my brain had combined them into a hot-headed guy who loved baseball. Also, I find Ipin grotesque.
That's totally fair.
Especially the way that Ipin's, on top of the way that she looks. Her method of attacking people is just horrible smelling gas.
Yeah.
So, one character that I found a little disturbing, and I think Richie will agree with this. I think Richie forgot or blocked out his existence. Remember the chivalrous pervert?
Oh my god!
Dr. Shamal.
Oh,
we never
Shamal,
talked about him.
No, I think I blocked him out as a form of self-defense.
Yeah, I think we all blocked him out. Dr. Shamal is just so weird. It's just I don't. No.
I mean, we'll touch on it more in part two. In part 2, we'll talk about him.
And so we have a couple more questions. And these questions are for Richie because he hasn't seen season 2.
Oh, good.
Or 3, or 4, or 5, etc.
Yeah.
So, Richie, what are your predictions for season 2 for the characters we talked about, as well as any other character you remember?
So my prediction is that now that Suna has his gang together, and it's established that they all have, one special ability. Gokudera's got his dynamite, and Hibari has the knives, Yamamoto's got the baseball bat. They're going to meet, another group of rival hitmen from another family, and they're all going to have, an opposite sort of rival on that side. And there's going to be a series of, altercations between them as they learn more about these weird rings that you keep bringing up, but I don't think have actually factored into the series yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Richie, can you think up of any new characters that you think will show up?
But it could be anything at this point, because it's just the baseline of the series is a baby who is a hitman. It's not I mean, I'm assuming that again, this is I'm not supposed to know this, I think, but when they talk about the Arcobaleno and they're all different colors, it's okay, so Reborn must be one color of the rainbow, and then Skull's another one, and Colinello's another one, so there'd be another 4? Because actually different cultures consider their different colors in the rainbow, but so I'm guessing there's 4 other Mafia babies that we're going to meet.
Reborn is yellow, Skull is purple, and I think Colinello is blue.
Right, yeah. Also, there was 7 rings in the box that we saw.
Oh.
So I'm guessing that everyone in Suna's gang gets a ring or something.
I don't know. We're not there yet. Who can say? It could be literally anything. Maybe Tsuna's gonna wear all 7 rings himself.
This was the genesis of this whole thing. Is that about 2 years ago, you mentioned a box and you were trying to explain it to me. And it sounded like this. It was, there's a box and it's like the box from the anime, and then there's the 7 rings, and then you work with the Mafia, and there's 7 rings and 7 babies, and they're all the colors of the rainbow, and you put them in the box, and that's the policy. That was yet another Reborn episode. With special guest, Rick.
It's been a pleasure recording with you guys. You guys are awesome.
Thank you. You are too.
I try. But you can find me on Superfancom, available on YouTube, Stitcher, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Buzzsprout, Deezer, Podbean, Spotify, and Player FM.
Hardcore. I just realized something. Ariana Grande is a Reborn fan because she has a song called 7 Rings.
That's also the Sonic the Hedgehog storybook series. There's a song about having 7 rings.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we already found 2 sets of rings. The first set is with Ariana Grande, and the second set is with Sonic.
Yeah, so if you combine them, that's the policy. Ariana Grande, Sonic and the Secret Rings, and Reborn together gives you the policy.